All right, so let's talk about some major updates to what's happening with the children, with some of the operation and all of the crazy conspiracy type stuff going on behind the scenes. Now, one of the things that I've talked about and many of us are trying to bring attention to is that soon the world is going to be exposed to some of the deep, dark sort of secrets that are happening that were deemed conspiracy, but is slowly over the years is coming to pass, coming to light as being the truth. And that is the sick stuff that's happening with the children and how many people are praying for this deliverance, for God to intervene. And he's always been there with the children, with the whole thing. But with the evil going on, there's a lot that has been buried, and there's a lot of this Moloch demonic type stuff that's happening, and it's becoming more mainstream. Now, all of it is not going to be exposed, as Q talks about, but what we're seeing is more of the disclosure, the discovery, and all that stuff. So if you haven't seen, there was a tweet by Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem that under POTUS that DHS and HHS have located more than 129,000 unaccompanied children that the Biden administration lost. Too many of these children were exploited, trafficked, and abused. We will continue to ramp up efforts and will not stop until every last child is found. So this is very significant because this comes as much more of these operations are coming to light. And recently there was one in Florida called Operation Northern Light, where they rescued more than 43 critically missing children that were saved just before Christmas in Florida, thanks to federal involvement with local police aged 1 through 17. And this was one of the largest child operations ever conducted in northern Florida. And this is coming across all of the US and even across the world. And the Epoch Times did a good piece about this, talking about how Operation Relentless Justice, which is what it's called, to identify, track, and arrest child sex predators, has been going on and has been ongoing for basically the last several years, even since the beginning of Trump's presidency. And this is where the DHS and the Department of Health and Human Services have located more than that 129K children that she posted. And I believe that some of the official reports and the numbers are being sort of, it's not coming out in the degree and the scale to which it can be digested by the general public. So they have to release reports in such a way for which it can kind of be accounted for, but at a scale where it's not like unbelievable. So for example, the August 2024 report from the DHS Office of Inspector General had published a report revealing that 323,000 illegal immigrant children were unaccounted for in the United States. And that number had served notices to appear in court but failed to do so to more than 32K of those. In addition, the safety of those other 291,000 children could not be verified. And so through that time, DHS announced that ICE would launch an initiative with local and state law enforcement partners to conduct welfare checks on the hundreds of thousands of illegal unaccompanied children smuggled across the border and placed with unvetted sponsors under the Biden administration. And so there's this massive thing, again, that has been happening with the underground, system, the cartels, the sex trafficking, all of that. And they have been placed with certain families, certain people, and this network has been in existence. It's not some conspiracy. The main aim of the initiative is to ensure that they're not being exploited. So many of the children who came across the border unaccompanied were allowed to be placed with sponsors who were smugglers and sex traffickers. And I believe that when they're talking about these numbers, like 2-week enforcement operation that led to a nationwide crackdown that resulted in the arrest of more than 293 child sexual abuse offenders, with more than 205 child victims being located. This is not some individual effort. A lot of it might be, but there's a network of some syndicate that the FBI, the DHS, the HHS, these guys, DOJ, are targeting. And even Kash Patel has said that Operation Relentless Justice shows no child will be forgotten, and that all predators targeting the most vulnerable amongst us will be held accountable. And then going on to say that they're not going to stop until all of this is done. And remember, this comes as lots more of these pictures with the release of the Epstein stuff is coming out, and you're seeing it. And if you've been keeping up, and again, I don't want people to go down this crazy thing where you actually see some of the raw pictures. A lot of it has been censored, but Jeffrey Epstein with young children have been released by the DOJ, and more is to come. This is just recent as of the last few days. And what's also crazy is that Clinton has been in the news. A lot of people are asking questions about why there's so many pictures with Clinton, and Trump is even commented about that in a Q&A example. And what has Q talked about? This was years ago, 2018 post, or in year 2018. This was a post from 2365 talking about Hillary Clinton and foundation, right? And crime against children, plus, plus, plus. And then even more specific is 2872 in 2019, where it's talking about all these things. Anthony Weiner, the crime against children, the analysis of the laptop, thousands of emails, 15-year-olds, all of that, and specifically saying Hillary Clinton and foundation, crime against children. And then post 4908, this is part of that big motto that a lot of people are talking about. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change. Crimes against children unite all humanity, cross party lines, difficult truths. And there's many Q posts talking about the children and all of the crazy stuff that's happening behind the scenes. But what I want to talk about very quickly is that you got to be prepared, because more exposure and a lot of this crazy stuff is going to come out. They're coming out slowly, such that the people, the public, the citizen journalists, the investigators, all these guys can look through the documents one by one, because there's thousands of evidence, of documents, and they're releasing it slowly because it is part of the Great Awakening, where it has to be drip fed. Otherwise, it's not going to be digestible in a huge sort of throwing in the kitchen sink type of mentality. So I just want to give you guys this heads up, because as more of this is coming out, as more of the Epstein stuff is coming on the news, and as more children are being rescued, and as some of these tweets like chrisyoonyt has talked about, all of this is going to lead to more and more of the vindication, more and more of the victory. So stay prayed up, be ready, and also be excited, because a lot of things are happening as we're praying for deliverance, for rescue, for vindication, for redemption, and how, more importantly, how God can be glorified so that people can come to know him and they can give glory and honor to him in all things. So be encouraged, guys. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.